um, analyze your news. I just thought that's a little funny because I've seen a lot of people out there, like, early users of Facebook trying to sort of analyze of say their, the 60 friends they have, um, how did they meet them, or analyze the numbers and the data behind behind their social life to try and figure out how they could, go party more or something. I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to kind of be helpful to that cause. So that's what triggered me to think about this, and also because I'm personally very sensitive to the news information, and the reading information, as well as, just the overall information that I get from the media. I'm sensitive about it because it leads me to make certain other decisions, which then, uh, takes me off to new directions. So I wanted to analyze how that happens in a more sort of particular uh, way. So my first actual serious app page is, well, I just call it Survey One, but basically every day you click into this app, and either you're analyzing what you do on Facebook, and you only analyze what you do on Facebook, or the same applies to, say, Twitter or email or what you do on the web. So you could just click into my app a couple times a day if you wanted to track what you want to do on every kind of platform. So let's say I want to find out what I do on Facebook every single day. So here I have to basically choose how many minutes, say in an hour, I spend going through posts by, public figures or kind of inspirational divas like influencers, just somebody, any lady or man who you feel is influential to you as a person, and then I made a slider, and the minimum is 0, maximum 60, and you can click into it, and you just think, well, per hour, how many minutes, do I spend looking at these, types of figures, looking at what they say, be it their videos or what they write or what pictures they post. Um, then you can just sort of click on any number, any location on the slider rail, and then I do the same through all these 10 categories. So how many minutes in an hour I spend looking at like a regular news channel versus, say, an entertainment channel, just like something that's really entertaining. It could be comedy, it could be kind of just like a pop star, a jazz singer, it could be like a cartoonist, whatever. Then of course, friends and my personal groups and, memberships, how many minutes I spend looking at these. So here I'm just looking at the number of minutes just so I can analyze things sort of scientifically, although of course that doesn't take into account how much attention I spend during, that number of minutes. The same applies to, shops, e-commerce, nonprofits, governments, travel and leisure, healthcare, advertisements. So that's what I do. Then I move on to the next page. And then basically it's just a report of what I did in the last screen. It's just analyze your news kind of, which is a little dorky, but I've seen people get interested in apps like that, so I thought that might be attractive to users. And this is really interesting because it's a pictorial view of my prior screen, which I think is just really, really easy for me to digest. And I just thought it's, really nice for user interface. And I just thought it was neat and fun to do. And the reason I say that is because these particular icons are actually, as you can see, SVG files. I don't actually know what this acronym stands for. But I think it's something new because, you know, when I was in business school, that was like in the early 2000s, I, you know, took a little bit of computer programming, not much, because I'm a financial engineer by training. After I studied, you know, liberal arts in college, but basically, you know, I thought an SVG is really interesting because it's not exactly just an icon, and the reason it's not an icon is because you can actually change how it appears, like in terms of its actual quality. So I could click on, say, this bar SVG8, and basically, you know, I could say find out the color of, oops, excuse me, if I want to know the color of this background image, I just go into, click into fill, and this is um, the color number. This number, well, set of numbers basically represents what color this is. So something like a light, like a like a heavy dark brown. And then I go into, let's say, you know, this SVG, or this one, it's clearer. And, you know, I actually just, you know, picked it up on some, you know, a certain website, and I will credit the person or the people on the YouTube videos where I just learned this on my own. It's really easy. I just took a little HTML back in school that was decades ago. This is totally new though. I had no idea how to do this. And then I just tweaked some of the code. I think I basically just, myself, I probably only wrote about 5 or 6 lines of this. I mean, it's really extremely easy, and you just have to understand. I broke it down. Basically, this is the part that's it calls in the fact that it's a data image. And then the rest is in HTML language, and basically you don't even have to know it. I basically don't. And then these 2 lines basically here, they describe the characteristics of this outer rectangle. See, right here. And then the next 2 lines basically describe the characteristics of the inner rectangle. And, you know, initially this was basically just a regular box with another rectangle inside, kind of like an electronic battery, like this. It's basically like this icon. Initially, that's how it looked. But I just tweaked it. I changed all the colors. I changed it from black and white to transparent and kind of a light brown beige on the outside. Then I took out the parts I didn't need. Then I broke it down into different components, and this is my inner rectangle. Then I just went and made sure that its size and location depend on what I chose in the figures from the prior screen, what I selected. So those numbers get, you know, they get recorded in this little app. And then you can see that there's a little part of the code that describes or enumerates the colors and the sizes and the position. So here I have this particular rectangle starting in this position, which is based on, you know, I did a lot of calculations, but they're very simple, almost just arithmetic. So where this rectangle begins, you know, it depends on where the last one finished, and the width of this rectangle depends on the number of minutes per hour as a percentage that I spend looking at this particular category. And then let's see, so that's outer rectangle. Inner rectangle, basically, then I just put a different color per category. So let's say here I want to change the color to, if you watch what I do, see, then I change the color, right? Then here, same with this, I changed the color. I mean, it looks really easy how quickly I do it, but to, you know, have to think it through um, strategically and scientifically, I probably spent a little, I don't know, I spent 1 week making this app. From thinking, from, you know, the moment I got inspired about the idea itself all the way through to executing it to the end. It took me just about 1 week. See, so I just changed all the colors, um, changed all the shapes of the icon. Originally, it was nothing but this little, see right here, this battery icon I'm pointing. Just this. Just one black rectangle with a solid black rectangle inside. And I took that from another website. I can find it here. See, ionicons.com. I got it off this website. I really have to credit all, later I will do so, all these YouTube stars who make their own power apps. I took this one. I took this one. See, I took this one. There we go. I took this one. And I let's see, I went into, it's very simple. I just took this. I took all this code and I took all this code and I just I put it onto my notepad, and then I, you know, broke it down, put it into different lines, converted the formatting and the language a little bit just to be you know, make it suitable for my app. But basically, I took this and I just changed how I wanted it to appear, because it's not a regular image, it's an SVG file. So it, excuse me, it allowed for me to make these icons, because all the properties of the image can be changed depending on some other, these, you know, image components practically become variables, and you can change everything about them based on other moving parts. I just thought it was really intuitive, it was really simple. And then here is my basically this icon, it leads me to the next page, but also what it does is it records these figures, you know, from my selections on these pictures. And what I do is, for example, here is a patch function, which I just learned, you know, last week. And this is just really useful, because after I do so, you see that, so I'm just gonna click to the next screen. You see that if I go on Excel, and this is the data source, or the table to which my new data feeds into, I go into, oh, excuse me, so rude, ignore, excuse me. I go into, see, I have it just that small, just that short patch function that I just showed a minute ago. Here I've got the table of, you know, answer 1, that's the, you know, how many minutes I spend looking at the first category, how many minutes I spend looking at entertainment, how many minutes I spend looking at, you know, a regular news channel, and so forth, for those 10 questions. And the last time I ran this app was the 31st time, I guess, and I spent, as you can see, it's not actually in an hour, but out of an hour. Out of 60 minutes, how much of 60 minutes do you spend looking at each of these? So basically, it's just an absolute number. How many minutes do you spend each day looking at each category? But I put the slider 0 to 60 just to have a range. So it looks like these are the number of minutes that I just took down. And here I record the email of the user of this app. So I have all the data here. It's just really useful. And the same applies to the next question that I ask the users. See, it's basically a list of the new friends, or the new channels, or the new feeds that I decided to add to what I look at um, on Facebook for in my case, but this could apply to any user who wants to, analyze how they use any particular news platform or just going through their emails. You know, when I spend, every the 2 hours I spend every day on my emails looking through them, how much time do I spend writing people back versus reading, you know, um, emails from blog writers versus emails from advertisers, whatever it is, I could just analyze it. So here I wanted to know based on my usual browsing or reading or watching behavior, um, what I decide to add or what new friend or what new institution or news shop I decide to follow. And this slider basically, well, it's because I expect to come into this app every day. So the minimum is 0 because you just don't add, you can't add people or add things every day. You don't add new things every day. At least I don't. And the maximum is just 3. Um, and well, it could be 4 or 5. I just wanted to keep it short. And if you didn't add anybody new, then my drop down disappears. It's actually very simple. You just go into the you just go into the visible function right here. See? It says basically if what shows on this slider is greater than 0, which means I actually chose something, then the fact that it's visible is true, and otherwise the fact that it's visible is false. So if it's 0, then it's invisible, and if it's greater than 0, then you can see it. And basically, let's say yes, I wanted to add a new person I wanted to follow. It's some influencer. So I said today I followed one new person, and then I want to take down exactly who told me about it. Like, did I decide to follow this rock star or this politician or this artist or this news channel, or this shop or whatever? Did I decide to start following this today um, based on a particular person or company or page? Who told me about this? Who um, tagged this person such that I decided to click and follow? And then basically I get to choose one. It's just one of the above. It's one of the 10 categories I put. So let's say I heard about following this new politician from a comedy show. Then I say that the source is from entertainment. So that means that today I added one new public figure I decided to follow regularly onto my Facebook feed, and the source was a comedy show. And let's say on that same day, like most days, you just you don't add people every day, so everything else is 0, and that's it. And then same with the last screen. I end up with a um, another patch function. It's really very simple. It's basically just a patch function. Again, I just learned this last week. And it says essentially, you can see here, you patch my answers here to a table called answers 3, and you basically create a new record. And the record consists of these columns, and the first is the response ID, and the response ID is just the identification for this record. So I just said, you count the rows, meaning you count the number of rows on my table, and then you just add 1. So if there are already 10 records, 10 times this has been answered, then this would be answer number 11. See, it's plus 1. And then answer 1 would be whatever I selected from this drop down list, selected text value, and so forth. Answer 2, 3, 4. And that's it. And then the username is just, it's just part of the, it's very simple coding. And yes, the same applies to the last answers. That's from, yeah, that's basically, this just records the number of new sites or people that I followed. That's from these sliders. So if it's 0, then slider for 1 might actually say 0. It's whatever what I click on. Actually, it's very convenient on Microsoft. They just automatically highlight what you're working on. So it's really very simple. And then I just click again. I just create a icon to, let's take, yep, move to the next screen, and you can see that again I patched it, meaning that the answers I made on the app will get input into my data source, which is not really a data source because the app is the data source. If you want to be precise, see, I have answers 3 right here and answers 2, and you can see that this is record number 20. Oh, because I didn't click the last time, that's why it's not 19. It's 20. Then answer 1, because that's the first category from public figures. I added 1 new person to follow, and everything else is 0 because I didn't add anything else. See, all the other answers are 0. So it's completely reliable and accurate. And then if I look at the next list, it's answers 3, and it actually says the source of answer 1, adding the new person onto what I look at on Facebook more regularly. I learned about that from watching a show, so it's from entertainment. It's one of my categories, and everything else is none selected, none selected, none selected for all the other 10. And these categories are basically just the 10 hard categories from my option set here. So it's very intuitive. I mean, I spent many years working hard in certain prior jobs, and that's made it a little easier for me. And I did study a little bit. I am a certified financial engineer, but really I never took any computer class. So yeah, so I get myself now to the next screen, which is something more fun because I wanted this app also not just for me, but to help everybody else, because I thought other people who like me might be very sensitive to the news that they absorb or what's being told out there. People whose lives are impacted by what they read or what other people read would find my app useful. It would be useful to me, but I wanted it to be useful to others too. So that's why I decided to tell people that you know we could all share our updates together. So if the app could also become kind of like a group, like a community. It's just a platform. If you want to get featured, you want to talk about what's new with you, come over here and give updates and talk about yourself, or talk about something new, or talk about what's news with you. You can basically find out. um, Everybody can find out about each other. So these are some of my vocations. It's just a little something very quick about what I do, and this is just to just to demonstrate how the app actually works. I thought it's really easy to use because you can just this is basically like a gallery. So um see, this is the I just put sort of 4 of my main vocations. Just I put them, it's in a Excel table. Then I can pull it up here, and the reason I did that instead of just paste 4 statements with 4 pictures stuck onto them is so that if it's connected to my data source, then I can make my descriptions. It's not actually a description table, it's just four different labels, but each label I set it to being visible only if this particular field of my gallery has been selected. See, it's sort of once again what I did, a little trick I just came up with in the last one of my prior screens. But see, if you go into visible, you'll see that it says if vocation gallery, what's selected, let's say ID equals 1, that's this first vocation, one of the 4 or 5 whatever vocations, then the fact that it's visible is true, and otherwise it's false. The same applies to, let's say, this one. So if this has been selected, this vocation selected, yeah, same. Excuse me. So yeah, right here. See, I'm now in description 2. Same, it says see, description 2, that's meaning the second label. I just you can name the labels whatever you like. If the on this vocation gallery, the selected vocation ID equals 2, which is meaning that in this gallery I selected this vocation, then the fact that this description is visible is true, and if not, it's false. And that's it. And then basically in the description table, I just give like a quick introduction to what I do. You know, so it apply, anybody could do the same, you know, just it's just a really quick table that you set up, and all the different things, all the different things that, you know, you could just quickly, you know, just maybe took a couple of minutes to write them in. And then these were this was the user interface component of this app that I'm making for this Power Apps contest. And finally, because this is for sharing information so people can talk about each other, and in case the users also wanted to talk about themselves, here I have a business card reader. So basically you can click on this and you can scan your business card. It's using an AI function, and it's part of the AI builder that's also a component in the Power Apps. But here I don't have a business card on me, so I can just go into a business card that I see. So let's say, just as an example, I was on my tablet and I scanned, you know, just with the tablet camera or phone camera, a business card. This would automatically input the first name, the last name, and the job title as found on the business card. It's actually pretty accurate. And then here you can just, you know, introduce yourself and say hi. You know, let's click play. I'm gonna just go here, because you have to go from the previous page. That's when I wrote in my new form. New form, it's just a certain command you have to put. So introduce yourself and say hi. My name is Alexa Rose. And then you can put your email, and you can just put my college alum email, and then I just click to submit the form. And the nice thing is that I connected that contact form to the Common Data Service, which is a part of the Power Apps. And I think that's really useful because it just this is what it is. See, you go into data, and it's just a set of a lot of pre-made entities. It, you know, took me a couple minutes to figure out entity just means like data tables, you know, just regular, like if you go and use a simple Excel spreadsheet, and you make a table, then that would be an entity. It's just fields with rows, columns, just a regular Excel table, and these are some pre-made entities. It's very convenient because then I could just use this one called contact, and it's pre-existing. It comes with the common data service, and they have all the fields. See, address, business, created. It's very, very simple. It's very, very intuitive. um and then the other thing is I actually use Power Automate for this also, because as you can see, each time somebody uses my app and clicks into the final page with a contact form. Excuse me. Oh, okay. I look into why, but basically, what happens is, should work. Hold on. That's because it's from the previous page. Excuse me. If not, it's okay. But basically, this is what happens. So, I introduce myself. You put your email, and then you click. And then after that, I should, because it worked every time, see? For example, I get an email now. It says introductory greeting from Alexa Rose. And I just made this flow myself. It's really simple. Hello, Rachel. The following user app has shared contact information, the first name, the last name, the job title, email, and whatever they wrote into their introduction, 1,000-word max. So somebody who just wanted to talk about themselves because they, want to maybe do something together. It could be just a quick note to say hi, or it could be something serious. And then I also collect the date and time that this information was submitted. And then, basically his or her business card information has been scanned and collected. That's just a part of the template that I make. And then here is the flow that I made for this. It's, excuse me, oh, it's a little slow. Yeah. So I go into, it actually should normally show up under my flows, which is this category, but this was part of something not this flow. I made this flow completely out, from scratch on my own, but I downloaded a solutions package to learn how to make something similar just last week. So I just decided to keep it here. Otherwise I could have just made the flow. Because of the contest deadline, there isn't much time. In fact, it's probably due midnight tonight, and it's now 10:40, so I'm a little short in time. But basically, so I made this flow from scratch because it's just so intuitive. You practically don't need to know any code whatsoever. But let me see, is this the one that I made? I am pretty sure this is. Yes. When a record is created, updated, or deleted. So in my case, a record was created because a new addition was put into the contact form. That's basically all that it means. Very intuitive. Then I decide to send an email. So it's very simple. So basically, this is a flow that's triggered by a condition. So the condition is that you create something, in which case once that record is created, this flow is triggered, meaning this activity starts when something is created. And in this case, when something is created into the context, which is, as I mentioned, a set of data, which is sort of like a big table with lots of attached tables that is on the common data service that I had just described. The scope just means who can see it, basically anybody in your organization. And then the next step, immediately, I just say I decide if this is triggered, if this condition occurs, you send an email. So I basically can decide to send an email to anybody. I just send it to myself. It could be also to the person who's filled out their contact form. But in my case, I just want to have a record of the fact that somebody visited, my app and wants to make some contact. And then I just put the basic statements that apply each time this flow is triggered. And this is exactly as seen in this email. Both of them came through. Um, exactly. It's just it's very reliable. I mean, it's worked every time for me, I think. First name, last name, job title, email, brief introduction, introduce yourself, information, and then the typical, the sentences that I want to show up every time get written for me. And so it's like an automated function. And then you just save it and it's done. Let me see yeah. And then that takes me, when you click on the submit button on that form, it takes me back to my first screen, which I had earlier described as basically, I wanted it to look simple because I have a beautiful design in the background, so I didn't want too much text on the first page, but I wanted to get the most important information across. So to make it both really simple, in a such a complex way, such a simple but complex aesthetic, paired with really important information I wanted people to know, I had to use very few words. So I decided there were basically three main things I wanted to get done on this app. But I didn't want these to become really busy, menu functions when I wanted to get across the fact that the theme of my app is that it's very, very beautiful, because I think that, attracts users to my app. So that's why I decided it wouldn't get anywhere and it would only have very few words, but it would say a lot. So I decided that people wouldn't see very clearly except for how nice it looks. So they would want to click onto it, but turns out it's not a button, it's just a label. And you have to keep your attention on it. You have to keep pressing down on it, otherwise it won't light up and you won't be able to read what it says. And then you would do the same for the other items, which would then lead you to the right arrow icons, and it tells the user exactly what people want to do. And I decided to call it Analyze Your News Using Relationship and Political Skills, because I actually a decade or so ago saw some early users of Facebook decide, oh wow, it's so cool, maybe I spend a lot of time filing paperwork in the office, I don't really party, I don't go out with friends, and now I'm on Facebook and I can see all these people, and I should really just analyze, with some numbers, how people make friends. What are the numbers behind making relationships? And maybe some people don't have a math or engineering background, but they want to see how other people make friends. So then that's how they download these apps that they find, because suddenly everybody's on Facebook. And I decided, well, if that's what some people find to be of value, maybe I could be of help in that regard. So I decided, in the fewest words possible, these would be the best ways to convey what my app would do, because after all, this is an app making contest, and one of the three criteria I'm judged upon is the user interface, meaning the aesthetics. And then that leads me to, as I had already described, this first screen. Just if you were every day to come to this app to talk about your behavior on just Facebook or just Twitter or just email or just on the web, how many minutes do you actually spend looking at a public figure versus how many minutes do you spend reading news channels versus rock stars or funny people versus looking at your friends versus companies versus nonprofits versus looking at shops, travel, healthcare. And I decided to add one more tab here, which is ads, because maybe if you just decide something, you change your life based on having read an ad, and you want to remember that and take note of it and analyze it over a period of many days, then that's how you do it. Then that would lead to the next page, which comes to all these interesting diagrams that I had described how I had coded to get them to reflect the prior screen's data, which is just really easy, because then if one component, one bar is a lot longer, then I can really zone into it and whoa, oh, I spend so much more time looking at these three different types of things. Then this screen takes a little longer to get through because, again, as I described, it's using the patch function to take all this information down into my Excel table. And then here, it allows the user to record each day what new person, page, channel, business, shop they decided to follow that day. Because then over a period of many days, you could start to analyze what prior day's behavior had caused you to start making new connections in certain types of categories. So let's say you added 2 news channels, one rock star, and one politician. And I just want to make a note of, well, not only did I follow these people starting as of that day, as of today, I started following these things. What made me decide to follow? So let's say I heard about this politician from this news channel. So then I would click news content. And then why did you decide to start following this, this newspaper? Oh, because I heard about it from a friend. So then I would click the source is a friend source. And then why did you decide to the third item, why did you decide to follow this rock star or movie star or artist? What made you decide to follow this new entertainment source? And you could say, oh, I heard about it from a travel and leisure post, and then basically again, this will take a while when you click this because the information is getting patched to the aforementioned Excel table. And then this is just so that users can all get to know each other. And just, as I described the user interface for aesthetics purposes, quick description. It's dependent on what you click on. As a description of what people do, so there's an understanding if people want to share information. Just a very quick. It might take a few minutes. And of course, in the prior screen, there was the button function at the bottom. So if you come and use this app every day, then you wouldn't have to come to look at this screen. You would just click on the button in the last screen, and you'd be done with the app for that day. Unless you want to use the app again and record the same behavior that you did on another information platform. So then that takes me to the final page, and I described how you can, if it's the first time you use an app and people want to get into contact with each other, you want to contact me, you could scan your business card, or you could just simply write it in yourself, put a quick introduction. And then your email. I have them so that when I type it, it's showed up in black, and afterwards it's in white, so it just looks a little nicer. You can just have a quick double check, and then you click here, and then my flow gets triggered as I had described, and I just get back to the first page. And normally it only takes a minute, but basically I have a new one. It just, no, that was 38, that was 13 minutes ago. It's gonna, yeah, here's the one that just 10:51 p.m. That's right now the same. So that's how my app works. And now I um have yet to upload this video that I am recording as I speak. And assuming that the Power Apps contest deadline is indeed on the 22nd, which is today, but presumably midnight the latest, then I ought to figure out a way to upload this within practically an hour. Yeah. Thank you.